Dominic Raab, Britain's Foreign Secretary, was in Israel just over a week ago, ostensibly to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu, but also to meet with US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who was there. Most likely that meeting was the real purpose of that trip, with the rest acting as window dressing. So it's certainly interesting that today Jared Kushner followed up by meeting Mr. Raab here in London. And indeed, as you say, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, was said to have dropped in on the meeting, giving a sense of the importance of the discussions. The British statement released afterwards said that the UK welcomed the historic Israel-UAE peace deal and discussed wider US efforts to normalize Israel and Arab state ties. The Foreign Secretary also updated Jared Kushner, we were told, on his recent visit to Israel and what the UK calls the occupied Palestinian territories, where he encouraged cooperation between Israel and Palestinian leaderships as a first step on the road to renewed Israeli-Palestinian peace process. And finally, we were told that the Foreign Secretary was clear about the UK's continued commitment to a negotiated two-state solution, with Jerusalem as a shared capital, and he outlined the importance of avoiding unilateral steps to allow space for dialogue.
Right, and since you pointed out, Jonathan, since Raab met Pompeo in Jerusalem so recently, why do you feel Kushner felt the need to have to make this London stop on the way back home?
Well, there's certainly a lot going on in terms of US diplomacy in the Middle East, and especially regarding Israel. Don't forget that the UK, along with France and Germany, has rejected the US's position on Iran's nuclear and conventional weapons programs and didn't support the US's efforts at the UN Security Council to extend the arms embargo on Iran at the end of last month. And that's certainly something that we know the US isn't happy about. Almost certainly that will have come up in today's discussions. The UK has acknowledged issues rising from systemic Iranian non-compliance with its JCPOA commitments. That's the nuclear deal, which President Trump and Israel never approved of. Donald Trump's administration has cited that non-compliance as proof of Iran's bad faith, but the UK and others have rejected that and sanctions in favour of continued dialogue between all remaining JCPOA participants. And don't forget, the UK has also taken consistent lines on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Boris Johnson just recently, not that long ago, putting his name to an op-ed in a Hebrew daily newspaper, saying that he condemned Israeli plans then to apply Israeli sovereignty to parts of the West Bank, which the UK and others referred to as annexation. So the UK has always spoken of its commitment to a two-state solution, a divided Jerusalem between Israelis and Palestinians, and that doesn't seem to be the direction in which the US is pushing things at the moment. And what's happening on the ground is certainly overtaking things like the dialogues that the UK has previously spoken out for. So it seemed perhaps that the UK is being led by the nose. The US are perhaps putting pressure on the UK to try to get them more in line with their style of diplomacy in the Middle East.